So we're going to go ahead and get started here. So on the call tonight, we have Ellie Sparks. She's our Director of Field Development. Want to say hi, Ellie?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here.
And my name's Sarah Wanis. I'm the Membership Coordinator. And then after tonight's call, we're making two promises to you. We're promising to connect you with a local organizer who can help you take local action. So look for an email from them sometime early next week. And then we're promising to provide you with additional training opportunities that you'll need. So we're going to provide you with those opportunities so you have the skills that you need to make the biggest impact. So look for an email from me within a day or two that has links to some training videos. So if you don't hear from me or from your local group leader by next Wednesday, you're going to want to shoot me an email. My email is membership@citizensclimatelobby.org. Again, that's membership@citizensclimatelobby.org. And go ahead and email me if you don't hear from your group leader or from me by next Wednesday. And then you'll also want to shoot me an email if you somehow bypass our registration process. So if you never entered your information on our website, or if you maybe click the link in an email forwarded from a friend to get on this call tonight, you're going to want to shoot me an email so that we can make sure that we got you connected with those resources. All right, and on to the fun stuff. So a little bit more about me. I joined Citizens Climate Lobby because I wanted to create solutions that are good for the environment and the economy. How about you, Ellie?
Thank you, Sarah. So I want clean air and pure water for my children, and that's what brought me to Citizens Climate Lobby 8 years ago. And it's my commitment to my children that keeps me going today. Now, you listening on the call tonight, we can imagine that you realize that man-made climate change is real and threatening us today. You are looking for a way to help out. You probably realize that at this point we need a systemic change, and you have a hunch that Congress might be a key in helping us move from high carbon to low carbon energy. Now, at Citizens Climate Lobby, we've got a couple of things going for us, and we think these things will help you to meet your climate goals. So number one, we've got a legislative proposal that has been vetted by scientists, reviewed by policy experts, and assessed by independent economists. Number two, we've got a proven methodology for working with Congress. And number three, we have a founder with strong values and guiding principles. So we're going to talk briefly tonight about our founder, our policy, our methodology, and then we will open it up for questions. So first of all, our founder, Marshall Saunders. Marshall is a businessman who, like all of us, has something in particular that inspires his action on climate. Marshall dedicated the past 30 years to the effort of eradicating poverty. He devoted his time, talent, and treasure to specific programs designed to help poor people launch small businesses. Now, when Marshall first learned about climate change, he recognized that global warming threatened poor people first and was already undermining the efforts that he and so many others had put into helping poor people rise from poverty. So he decided that if he was serious about solutions to poverty, he needed to become serious about solving the climate crisis as well. So as a result, 10 years ago, Marshall started Citizens Climate Lobby with 3 groups in San Diego. Today we have 479 chapters around the world, with 412 of those in the US. Now, in his volunteering to address poverty, Marshall joined up with a group that had developed a specific approach to organizing citizens to empower Congress to take action. Marshall took that proven methodology and applied it to climate solutions. Now, that group's name is Results. If you stick around Citizens Climate Lobby for very long, you might hear us referring to the Results methodology. We've expanded on that methodology, and I will describe that to you shortly. First, though, Sarah is going to tell you about our legislative proposal, the carbon fee and dividend. So back to you, Sarah.
Great, thanks, Ellie. So Congress has 6 basic options to confront climate change. The first is the status quo. This is where our whole society finances fossil fuels, and it is the most expensive option by far. The next is regulation. This is boots on the ground, eyes on emissions. This approach requires the government to hire regulators to keep tabs on everyone's emissions and is dependent on the budget for enforcement. This approach is only as effective as the number of sources that it can monitor, but hiring regulators is expensive, so it's only going to catch the biggest coal-burning power plant, not your car or your neighbor's lawnmower or your friend's boat. Next is cap and trade. This creates an artificial market. It involves putting a cap on emissions, but lets companies trade the amount of emissions that they produce. It still requires hiring regulators to tell us who is emitting how much and all of the challenges that come with regulation, and creates a market where a select few get rich and the rest of us are stuck with a fluctuating energy economy. Then there's subsidies. This is where the government picks winners and losers. It can be really hard to predict the future and what's going to be the best option down the line, and we know how this has failed us in the past when the government decided to finance fossil fuels. Now we've come to a carbon tax. This is a sin tax, like the cigarette tax, that puts pressure on consumers. It's effective in changing consumer behavior, but it's regressive in nature, which means that it harms lower and middle income people financially and slows down our economy. Then there's carbon fee and dividend. This is CCL's preferred solution. It is simple yet effective. Carbon fee and dividend include the fee on carbon emissions at the source. Then the revenues from that fee go back to households. It's this dividend that grows the economy and protects the most vulnerable. We've worked with scientists and economists to come up with this particular strategy so that it will reduce emissions, grow jobs, save lives, and protect the poor. A recent study of our proposal determined that in the first 20 years alone, a carbon fee and dividend policy would reduce carbon emissions by 50% below 1990 levels, add 2.8 million jobs to our economy, and avoid 227,000 premature deaths because air pollution drops when carbon emissions decline. A white paper of our proposal determined that more than half of U.S. households and nearly 60% of individuals would experience a net increase in income due to the dividend. You can see what your dividend would look like in the first year of a carbon fee and dividend policy as CCL proposes it using our carbon fee and dividend calculator. You can find that by just Googling CCL carbon fee and dividend calculator. So how does carbon fee and dividend work exactly? First, Congress will put a tax or a fee on fossil fuels. The government then collects all of that money and gives it back to households evenly. With this fee, things made with fossil fuels will start costing more because carbon-intensive fuel sources will pass their costs off onto people buying their energy. As a result, people will change their habits and choose low-carbon products and services because they'll be cheaper. Investors will see the writing on the wall and shift their money out of fossil fuels and into lower carbon energy. We plan to start the fee low at $15 per ton of carbon so we can ease the solution into the economy. Then steadily and predictably increase the fee each year until we solve the problem. This will allow us to make a steady, staged, and predictable transition to low carbon energy. With this approach, carbon emissions will drop to 50% below 1990 levels within 20 years. So you heard me mention job growth. Ellie, could you elaborate a little bit on where that comes from?
Yes, awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Alrighty, so we've got the fee on fossil fuels. We've got the government collecting this money, and governments, by the way, are very good at collecting fees. We've got to decide what to do with the money. Economists tell us that in order to restore integrity to the market, that money goes back to all of us, the people economically harmed by the burning of fossil fuels. We each get a slice of the pie. The dividend going to households gives people pocket change that they will spend on Main Street. We anticipate 2.8 million new jobs in the first 20 years of carbon fee and dividend. We will see the job growth because the gains from the dividend are concentrated among those considered most vulnerable within our society, those with lower incomes, the youngest and oldest, and minorities. These groups will experience a net increase thanks to the dividend. When people who need money get money, they spend it locally on things like food and healthcare, hence the job growth. This effect, in which the most vulnerable benefit, stems simply from charging for pollution and returning proceeds equally per person. Now, on our website, you will find lots of details about our proposal, carbon fee and dividend. After our call, please go there to dig around. You can read the FAQs and reports. You can speak to your local group leader when you hear from them early next week. If you have a question tonight that doesn't get answered, you're welcome to reach out to me by phone or email. And my contact information is Ellie, E-L-L-I, at citizensclimate.org. That's my email, ELLI at citizensclimate.org. My phone number is 804-475-6775. I'm in Virginia, East Coast. Sarah is in California, West Coast. Alrighty, so that's the policy. Now you're wondering how in the world we are going to get Congress to make a move and what exactly you can do to help. So back to you, Sarah.
Great. So this is where we get to talk about our methodology. We've got ourselves organized in communities across the country. Our volunteers work within teams in local chapters where we divide and conquer, focusing on 5 areas of political leverage. The first is we call these our 5 levers of political will. And the first is direct lobbying. This is where we speak directly with our representatives. The next is local media, where we speak to local media outlets who have an influence on our community. Third is grassroots outreach. So if you heard about us at a movie screening or a tabling event, those are all forms of grassroots outreach, engaging with our communities. Next is grass tops outreach. So this is engaging with the most influential people in our local community. And the last is group and volunteer development, where we provide the skills that you all need to be the most successful. Ellie, can you break down how those work in our chapters a little bit more?
Definitely. All righty. So in our chapters, we've got teams focused on each of these points of leverage. So for example, in a chapter, you will find 4 to 5 volunteers who meet regularly with the member of Congress. They will go to Washington, D.C. to meet with the member of Congress and also back in the local community. Some of our lobby teams might meet quarterly with their member of Congress and his or her staff. In between those quarterly meetings, a special volunteer called a CCL congressional liaison will touch base regularly with this point person, the staff person. Our lobby team volunteers may bring with them handwritten letters addressed to the member of Congress when they meet with him or her. So where do they get these letters? From other volunteers in the group. In fact, 1 or 2 of the other volunteers may have hosted a letter writing party and gotten their friends and family who aren't even officially in the CCL chapter to write letters that the lobby team then takes with them and hands to the member of Congress. Another group of volunteers may have stood all day at an Earth Day table and gotten people there to write letters to their member of Congress. And the lobby team takes those letters along with them to hand deliver to the member of Congress. The lobby team will also bring copies of letters to the editor that chapter members have gotten printed in the local newspaper. There may even be another team of volunteers who have met with the editorial page editors of the local newspaper. And as a result of that meeting, the newspaper now endorses carbon fee and dividend. So our lobby team brings the editorial page endorsement to the meeting with the member of Congress. Now, it could be that the lobby team brings a local respected civic, faith, or business leader, someone whom the member of Congress looks to for advice or considers a friend. That local leader shares his or her endorsement of our proposal. The lobby team might bring a stack of written endorsements from local respected leaders and hands those to the member of Congress, or our volunteers might host a visit by the member of Congress to a local business working on climate solutions. So perhaps taking the member of Congress to a farm to see farmers who are extracting and storing carbon in soil and plants, or a wind turbine manufacturer. We've even had members of Congress visit schools where elementary school children thank them for leading on climate solutions, and high school students make the case for our legislative proposal to their member of Congress. Endorsements can come from all ages. Now, you might decide to help with any of these efforts, or you may want to help with presentations. Some of our volunteers will line up the presentations. Other volunteers go and give those talks. And we've got volunteers who go with the speaker to network in the audience before and after the talk. So it is very much a team effort to do a citizens climate lobby presentation. You may decide to join the hospitality committee to make sure that when your group meets, they've got some nourishment, good food, something to drink during the meetings. You might offer to be the person who stands at the door and greets newcomers and ensures that the new folks get connected and trained. One way or another, your current skills and talents get put to good use in a Citizens Climate Lobby chapter. Now, Sarah, you're going to be sending an email to folks, giving them a link to CCL Community. Would you tell them about that link and what they can get on Community?
Yes, of course. So I'm going to send you each an email within the next day or so that's going to have a link to Community. We're also going to get you set up with a Community account. So Community is our internal volunteer communications platform. On this website, you can access training videos, skill building videos, and informational videos. You can also connect with other volunteers focused on one of our 5 levers: media, outreach, presentations, group and volunteer development, or lobbying. You can also meet volunteers focused on other subject areas like agriculture, coal country, faith groups, students, and anything else that you might be interested in. So look for that email from me tomorrow or Friday.
Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up. And what I want to say to you in closing is that looking at climate change is scary. If you are on this call, you have a certain amount of courage to look the issue of climate change in the face and to ask yourself, what am I doing now? What could I be doing more? And I have a hunch that if you're on this call, you've already done some things. You might have made personal lifestyle changes. You might have gotten involved with a local organization. So I just want to say thank you so much for all you have already done. Thank you for your courage for being on this call. If you decide to volunteer with us, we are pleased. I want to read this quote that Sarah just put up for us from Eleanor Roosevelt. And she says, "Courage is more exhilarating than fear, and in the long run, it is easier. We do not have to become heroes overnight, just a step at a time. Meeting each thing that comes up, seeing it is not as dreadful as it appeared, discovering we have the strength to stare it down." So thank you for your courage, and thank you for your strength in staring down climate change and lifting up climate solutions. So thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.
Thanks, everyone.